Last week, in an interview with Chris Hayes on MSNBC, Kamala Harris was asked whether or not ICE should be abolished, and her answer essentially was no, that they should not be abolished. Now, this week, in an interview with Jake Tapper on CNN, Bernie Sanders had the chance to show Kamala Harris how it's done, how you answer that question, how you respond when someone asks you whether or not you support the abolition of ICE. And what did Bernie Sanders?
Okay, so the other day I said, well, how can we get rid of ICE? You know, is everybody going to just flood over the border, et cetera, et cetera? I was thinking of INS, Immigration and Naturalization Service. And I don't know that INS is any better than ICE, but because I imagine they're all a bunch of jackbooted. Anyway, maybe, maybe not. But I was wrong about ICE. I mean, ICE is some kind of... I hate to single out ICE because how do we know how bad the other ones are? I mean, all these guys who work for these agencies are thugs, right? I mean, even the police and everybody. Everybody who works for them. They're there at the behest of the establishment, and they do everything they can to make life miserable for all of us. Okay, but that doesn't mean that they don't make things more miserable for some people than others, right? So ICE may be like the SWAT teams of immigration. But I'm going to take their word for it. I was arguing with them a little bit. Either him or Kyle, either Mike or Kyle Kulinski. Hey, I agree with them. I'm sure they know more about ICE than I do. When they said that it was created during the Bush administration under the Patriot Act, I was like, I thought ICE was around forever. But no. No, and if it's, you know what, I'm all for getting rid of anything to do with the Patriot Act. As a matter of fact, I wish we'd just gotten rid of the Patriot Act under Obama. But Obama is a putz. He didn't do jack shit for us. I mean, the more that I study, I already knew this 8 years, 10 years ago or something, back after the first 4 years. Sitting there going, when are you going to get out of Iraq? You know, you made all these promises, 2011, 2012, 2000. I was like, fuck, man, get the fuck out of Iraq. Afghanistan, why are we there all this time? How did you let it go into a Republican administration without getting rid of Afghanistan? Should have dumped that hot potato a long time ago. Anyway, I'm not going to get into a whole thing about Obama. Obama is owned. He's a subsidiary of, the Democratic establishment, which is Republican 2.0 light, whatever you want to call it. So, I'm all for getting rid of ICE. I mean, I don't know why we didn't just keep the INS around to do things. But let's see. I'm going to listen a little bit here, just see if there's anything I want to comment on here.
He actually disappointed. So Bernie Sanders dodged the question. He did not say whether or not he would support the abolition of ICE. Take a look.
More than a dozen Democratic congressional candidates reportedly support abolishing or defunding ICE. The Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, including candidate for governor of New York, Cynthia Nixon, who tweeted this week, quote, ICE is a terrorist organization and its egomaniacal leader is Donald Trump. Sign our petition to hashtag abolish ICE. Do you agree that ICE should be abolished?
I think what we need is to create policies which deal with immigration in a rational way. And a rational way is not locking children up in detention centers or separating them from their mothers. What we need is Trump to sit down with members of Congress and work on a rational program which deals with a serious issue.
That was a dodge. The correct answer, Bernie, is yes. That's it. That's all you gotta say. Yes. And with Occupy ICE protests popping up across the country and Democratic lawmakers like Earl Blumenauer and Mark Pocan advocating.
So I got to agree with Mike here. And, you know, let's not forget that Bernie was a major disappointment. I mean, while he's fundamentally everything that we support, I mean, he's basically a communist. So, but functionally, he's not a communist, okay? But like me, he believes in getting rid of poverty, and that's what communism is. Communism isn't about Stalin or Mao, although Mao was a pretty good communist. I mean, he implemented communism in very intelligent ways, and despite what we have to say about his human rights records, you know, that's all bullshit. We take, you know, what did he do? What did he do? You're going to take a period of time when Mao was faced with the starvation of the Vietnamese people, the Korean people. So he shared everything that China had with Korea and Vietnam to keep them from really, I mean, we're talking about he saved millions of lives, and you're going to say, oh, because some people starved in China, that he's a bad guy. So, I mean, these things, you have to look at them in context, right? I think Mao was a good leader. I don't think that any kind of totalitarian, and whether you want to call it communism under Stalin, for instance, and the things that he did that were wrong. They were just wrong, whether he was a communist or not, is a good thing. But trying to end poverty is a great thing anywhere. Now, just like anything, how you do it, you know, it's all in the details. The devil's in the details. But and the devil's in the details in something like the INS. I mean, I don't know the details. Was the INS, or not the INS, but it was ICE, created by the Bushes to just screw people over? Probably. I mean, if it was created under the Patriot Act and Republicans are just, I mean, let's face it, let's not bandy words, or let's be blunt. You know, conservatives are assholes. There's nothing good about a conservative. If there is, then it's not really conservative. I mean, it could be conservative in theory, but flying under the banner of conservatism, there isn't anything good. Everything that they throw at us that is good is really being done for the wrong reasons. It's like a parent who says, I'm beating the shit out of you because I love you, you know. It just doesn't work that way. So I'm sure that ICE is a disaster. I mean, look at what's going on right now with, I mean, we're basically calling them the Gestapo, and we're trying to you know, everybody's sitting back going, what the fuck, right? I mean, isn't everybody doing that? Isn't just about everybody not unhappy with what ICE did? And I don't even understand if they're doing what I think they're doing, what I've seen they're doing. You know, look, I'm not for overthrowing governments and things like that. I'm for finding other ways, but God damn, how much do you put up with? I mean, this is what they're trying to throw me in jail for, is talking about that. What about that? I mean, And I can't even talk about it because it's treason. But how much? I mean, if I were a black person living in a ghetto somewhere, whether it's St. Louis or Chicago or New York, and now in this last case, I think they're charging him with murder, but he'll get off, right? The guy who shot this kid who was just running away from his car. And why was he running away from his car? Well, my guess is he figured this guy was going to try and shoot him, so he got out of his car and ran. I mean, it was just a traffic stop, right? He's not going to jail or anything. He must have been terrified about something. But all I'm saying is, and, of course I'm tempted to do it myself. I'm tempted to go out there and get justice where justice is denied. But in the end, I always say the same thing. I've lived 58 years nearly now, and I've never seen these people not get what they deserved. And I fully believe, I don't just believe, but I know they will get what they deserve. I believe in God, not some guy with a long beard and sandals and a robe. But I believe that whatever it is that brings justice to this world, and it does over and over and over again, and for the people it doesn't, I believe they get justice in a way that we don't understand. We see them dying at the hands of conservatives, suffering at the hands of conservatives, and we want revenge. Everybody wants revenge for that. All of my friends, all of the progressives in the world, everybody wants revenge. But, the Bible may be a bunch of bullshit, but some of it isn't. And when they say, revenge is mine, saith the Lord, I remember that saying. It's true. It's absolutely true. Vengeance is it is woven into the fabric of our universe. Now, I'm not going to get into a whole thing about what I believe. My definition of God is way different from any other religious person I've ever met. Spiritualists come very close, but they get into a lot of weird shit that I know isn't real, My God is very much reality-based. I know atheists will jump up and down and scream at me about that, but I firmly believe, I don't believe, I know. And I know from personal experience. So, you can say, well, you have no proof, but I say spending a whole lifetime seeing people get what they deserve and knowing that without getting into all my theories of infinite universe, you can go read those on my group, The Philosopher's Stoned. Okay? But without getting into all that, I know that we live forever. I know that our existence is infinite. Just like the material universe is infinite. It's infinite in both time and space. It's infinite in size. There's infinitely smaller and larger particles that make up what we are. Ratio of vacuum to matter, or true vacuum, I guess, is what I'm thinking. And therefore, no vacuum, because if it's infinitely smaller particles, infinitely larger particles, then how does anything have a vacuum? There's no bit of reality that you can take that doesn't have particles in it. You just can't see them. You can't measure them. We don't have the. I mean, we can only measure what we can measure, and the fact that the fact is, there's material way beyond that, and how that nature of reality affects everything. Okay, I said I wouldn't get into that, but my point is that all of that philosophy that I understand is to be real, that I know to be real. Not I don't believe it, I know it. Yes, it may all be conceptual in my mind, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't pair up with reality. You know, if I'm as smart as I think I am, I say it does. I say it does match up, and therefore I say that what we think of as massively intelligent is woven into our universe. And all you have to do is open your mind up to it in order to tap into it. That's why I think I'm so smart, because I'm open-minded to that possibility. And if that possibility is true and I'm open to it, then I can tap into vast amounts of intelligence. You know, if I'm open to listening to that voice in my head that tells me what to do and how to do it and where to go and what to say and all that kind of stuff, and it really is there, then I'm like uber powerful, right? And I believe I am. And I believe it doesn't matter if I live or I die or this world goes up in flames or whatever. I don't think any of that matters. But I do think it matters that you live your life. I guess I'm kind of what they call a Taoist. You know, you have to find the path. You have to get on it. And it may lead to your total destruction, a total awful ending or horrible life. Because maybe that's, what we have to do. Maybe we have to suffer to be good people. Maybe it depends on the circumstances. When you live in a world like this where there's a lot of bad people doing a lot of bad things, essentially the entire Republican Party and all the people helping it, voting for it, and all the conservatives and the establishment, then maybe the only good way to lead your life is to suffer. And maybe that's how you come out ahead in the end. You had an awful life, but guess what? In the infinite realm of reality, you won. I know that to be true. Like I say, I don't believe it. So, getting back to this stuff. So I'm sure they're right about ICE. I mean, they're right about, as far as I'm concerned, 90% of the government needs to go or change. And probably at least 50% of the people working for the government either need to go or change. And if they can't change, then they gotta go. Police who think that being a cop is just so that they can have power over other people, to push people around and be assholes, because that's 90% of the cops I know. Okay, they're not there because they want to help people. They're not there because they want to stop crime and stop injustice, people who are bad. They're there because they like the idea of saying, hey, I'm a cop. You do what I say. That kind of thing. Well, I'm sure that I'm sure that that's the whole problem here. I mean, yeah, I don't know every detail. I know the same things you know about what I've heard lately. And I know about the shootings at the border and things like that, going back a long ways. Not before ICE, because I think I didn't hear much about that before the last 10 years or so, which apparently is how long ICE has been around. So, I agree with him. Let's hear a little bit more.
Advocating for ICE to be abolished, I think that the trajectory on this issue is clear. I mean, you have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez win her primary against a corporate Democrat, someone poised to be one of the next leaders of the Democratic Party, running on a platform to abolish ICE. So I think that Bernie Sanders has got to understand that abolishing ICE is not only the correct policy position, but it's the morally right thing to do in the face of the numerous abuses of this particular government agency. And the problem here is that he's kind of setting himself up to be outflanked from the left in 2020 in the event someone else does choose to run and say that they do support the abolition of ICE. And in fact, since we've been putting pressure on Kamala Harris, guess what's happening? She has started to change her position on this subject. So as Yahoo News reports, Senator Kamala Harris of California has reconsidered her position on the agency. Harris, who is also viewed as a potential 2020 candidate, said Sunday during an interview with NBC News that we need to probably think about starting from scratch in immigration enforcement. Back in March, Harris said during an MSNBC interview that ICE has a purpose, ICE has a role, ICE should exist. So if Kamala Harris can change her position on this, then so can Bernie. And the thing is that I don't just want Bernie Sanders to say and declare that he supports abolishing ICE. I want him to mean it. I don't want him to just take this stance for purposes of political expediency. I want him to understand why abolishing ICE is the right thing to do. And unlike most lawmakers, he actually listens to what we have to say. If we haven't kept continuous pressure on him when it comes to Israel-Palestine, he still might be saying things that sound a lot like corporate Democrats on that subject. You have to let lawmakers know what position is the appropriate position, and you have to change their minds. That's the thing that's important to me. You have to change their minds. I want Bernie Sanders to want to abolish ICE and not just say he wants to abolish ICE. But I don't think that people who support Bernie should just settle and accept his non-answer here, because Bernie Sanders is usually one of the only individuals in Congress that is consistently on the right side of every issue in history, and he has foresight, perhaps more so than any other member of Congress. So if you genuinely support Bernie Sanders, then here's what you've got to do. You've got to change his mind. Bernie Sanders is not above criticism. He's not perfect. And if you support Bernie and you want him to be the best candidate in 2020, which he already is, but if you really want him to win, change his mind,
I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, he's the best candidate in terms of just political capital, you know. But I would say somebody like Ocasio-Cortez may be a little better. I mean, from what I'm hearing right here, Bernie really screwed us. Okay, I have a couple of memes that I want to show you here. Go into here and show you a couple memes, just to give you an idea of how I feel about Bernie. I mean, Bernie jumped on our bandwagon, all right? So I think what I'll do is just pretend like I'm going to comment on something. Go into my memes. He definitely jumped on our bandwagon, not the other way around. We created we're the ones who said we wanted somebody besides Hillary. And he picked up on that, and he filled a void. It's as simple as that. This mouse is a pain in the ass, and it's either been corrupted or it's been hacked. So, I think I'll find it in stuff in here. Well, here's one with a bunch of them, and I'll try and explain them here. So, like, this meme, well, it's awfully small. Okay, well, let me just explain to you. I mean, first of all, this one, okay, look, let's do it this way. I'm sorry. Just bear with me one more second here. So, go to pics, go to memes, go to political, and go to anti-Hillary. Alright, now I'll open this up, and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Okay, so like, in this meme, I said, when we accepted Bernie to lead our revolution, we made it abundantly clear that we did so because Hillary was not an option for us. What part of that did he not understand? So, you know, and see the picture? Still suffering from shill burn. I love these words I come up with. So, yeah, I mean, we were really angry about, and the Bernie or bust people were just furious with Bernie over this. This is exactly it, this picture. He just got right behind her because he was so afraid of Trump. Let me tell you something. Beating her in that race, getting rid of her, causing her to lose, well, look at the meme right next to it. I combined all these memes together. This is her, November 9th, 2016. What the fuck just happened? This was all by design. I mean, we wanted to get, and look at an asshole. We just wanted her to lose so that she wouldn't be in control of the party anymore. I mean, she was controlling the party to a large extent. And I made all these memes. This one says, "Hey shill, we threw you a softball," and that's Bernie, and he's a softball, and he's in the mud. This is where it ended up. So now we have to play hardball. And this is throwing a Donald Trump at her. And it is sad that we had to, you know, sometimes you have to destroy something in order to fix it. And the Democratic Party, it definitely had to be brought down. I mean, here's a meme from, you know, during the campaign. Go ahead. Tell me I have to vote for Hillary if Bernie doesn't win the nomination again. And this isn't one of mine, but it's a classic. Because that's what we were dealing with. They were telling us that, you know, if Bernie doesn't win, you gotta vote for Hillary or we'll get Trump. And it was like they were threatening us with Trump. Well, you know how I said just a little while ago, I know there's a God? Well, in the end, we're the ones who threatened them with Trump. No, we didn't threaten them. We gave them Trump. I mean, we did. I didn't vote for Hillary. I have a Facebook group which was all about voting for Trump. And I even made this little meme up. I am a Democrat and I will vote for Trump even though I didn't. Because I'm in Kentucky. I didn't have to vote for Trump. I knew Kentucky would go to Trump because basically Kentucky sucks. The people are just ignorant here. And I knew that, and so I just didn't vote. And I say, why? Because fuck Hillary Clinton. And that's my full name for her. Because she is nothing but a crazy cartoon character to me, you know, and she's a shill. She's a joke. I don't know how we ended up having to put up with her. Somebody sent me this meme. I think it's just perfect. Let's get unaccountable money out of politics, she says. Then all of a sudden, she's gone. I love it. Okay, so you know, I agree with most of what Mike has to say most of the time, but and I think that he agrees with me too on this. I mean, Bernie is gonna have to. He's gonna have to turn over a new leaf in between now and 2020, or he's gonna find we're gonna run somebody else. He's not gonna like that. If that's what happens, you know, he will be most disappointed.
Make him more progressive because I don't think we're backing down. I'm not backing down on this issue. Abolishing ICE is the right thing to do. So let's do it. Let's convince Bernie, and I hope that he'll listen. So continue to tweet at him and email him, and I believe that if he hears from us, he'll do the right thing. He'll rethink his stance here.